The scent of fresh roses and eucalyptus drifted through the softly lit wedding hall, mingling with murmurs of anticipation. Twinkling fairy lights draped from the wooden beams overhead, casting a gentle glow over guests seated in neat rows, all turned toward the altar. Every breath seemed held, every eye locked on the couple before them. Emily Carter stood with her back straight and her heart trembling inside her ribcage. She had never looked more radiant. Her strapless white gown hugged her gracefully, the lace detail intricate and delicate, just like the woman who wore it. But she wasn't thinking about the dress. Her eyes were on the man in front of her, Noah Bryant. He sat proudly in his sleek black wheelchair, dressed in a light gray suit with a white shirt and black suspenders. He was the kind of man who turned heads not because of pity, but because of presence. Even seated, Noah had an aura about him: strength, stillness, depth. Some guests might have seen a man with limitations. Emily saw a man who had survived what most couldn't. 3 years earlier, Noah had been deployed in Afghanistan, a decorated soldier, leader, fighter. That was before the explosion, the one that shattered his spine and nearly took his life. When Emily first met him, he was angry, withdrawn, and broken, lying in a rehab center with eyes that no longer dreamed. She was the physical therapist assigned to help him regain upper body strength, but what started with silence and resistance slowly turned into a bond. She challenged him. He challenged her back. She stayed late. He opened up. By the time he was transferred out of her care, Emily was already too far in, and so was Noah. Love bloomed not in perfect moments, but in hospital corridors, over cups of lukewarm coffee and raw confessions. It grew in places most people avoided looking. Now they were here. "You may now exchange vows," the officiant said, his voice warm and steady. Emily took a soft breath and turned toward Noah, her bouquet trembling slightly in her hands. "Noah," she began, voice catching, "I never expected to find someone like you. Someone who makes me laugh when I want to scream, who sees all of me, even the parts I try to hide, and loves me harder because of them." Noah's eyes glistened. "You told me once that I'd be better off with someone who could give me a normal life. But what we have is more than normal. It's real. It's resilient. You've taught me that strength isn't just physical. It's choosing to wake up every day and keep going, even when it hurts." She smiled through tears. "And I promise to be by your side, pushing you when you need it, holding you when the world feels heavy, and celebrating every step, whether it's taken with feet, wheels, or heart." Guest sniffled softly behind her. Noah nodded slightly and took a breath, clearing his throat before speaking. He didn't look down at his note card. He didn't need it. "I never thought I'd be here," he said. "After the explosion, I thought my life was over. I was angry at everything, at the pain, at the chair, at God. I thought no one would ever look at me again like a man, until you walked into my rehab room." Emily lowered her eyes, remembering those early days. The stubbornness, the sarcasm, the tears. "You didn't see a broken soldier," he continued. "You saw a man who was still fighting. And every time I wanted to give up, you refused to let me. You gave me more than strength. You gave me hope. You gave me you." His voice cracked, but he didn't stop. "I vow to love you, to support you, and to never let this chair define what we are. Because what we are is bigger than that. We're unstoppable." A beat of silence passed. The officiant smiled gently. "With the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Emily leaned in, heart bursting, and kissed Noah gently. The entire hall exploded in applause. As the kiss broke and they turned to face their guests, smiles glowing, Emily felt weightless. She was no longer the girl who once worried about what people would say. She was his wife. And this was the happiest moment of her life. But Noah's eyes weren't scanning the crowd like hers were. He was focused. Somewhere in the back, almost unnoticed, was a man standing near the DJ booth. Noah made eye contact with him, gave the subtlest of nods. Emily didn't catch it. She was too lost in the cheering, in the flurry of flower petals being tossed, in the tight hugs of friends and relatives gathering around them. But something had started. That nod, so small, so silent, was the trigger. a quiet signal that the next phase of the night was ready to begin. A surprise carefully planned and guarded for months. Something Emily didn't expect. Something no one did. The man near the booth walked away briskly. Another man near the back door quietly reached into his pocket. A third nodded toward the DJ. And in the middle of it all, Noah just smiled. Emily, still oblivious, the reception hall buzzed with laughter and the clinking of glasses. Plates clattered gently as servers glided between tables, dressed in white linens and teal accents. Guests swayed to soft music while the photographer darted between candlelit corners, capturing smiles and cake-covered noses. Emily sat beside Noah at the sweetheart table, her hand intertwined with his. Every now and then she glanced his way, her eyes soft and filled with a joy that couldn't be faked. She leaned toward him and whispered, "I still can't believe we're married." Noah smiled, eyes steady on hers. "Believe it, you're stuck with me now." She giggled and took another sip of champagne, basking in the glow of being his wife. For a moment the world felt still, as if it were holding its breath just to admire them. Then the DJ's voice rang out, playful and smooth. "Ladies and gentlemen, the bride and groom will now share their first dance as husband and wife." Guests clapped excitedly, some reaching for tissues, others raising their phones to capture what they expected to be a touching but simple seated dance. After all, they all knew about Noah's condition. Emily stood, gathering the edge of her dress and glancing toward Noah's wheelchair. "Do you want me to come to you?" she asked gently. Noah didn't answer. Not at first. He looked over her shoulder toward the DJ booth. Another nod, then he turned back to her and said simply, "No, come with me." She looked confused for a split second, until Noah placed both palms on the armrests of his wheelchair and pushed himself up. Gasps spread across the room like wildfire. Emily's heart skipped. Her breath caught in her throat. "Noah," she whispered, stepping back instinctively. He stood, on his own 2 feet. The room froze. Forks hovered midair. Someone audibly dropped their glass. It was real. Noah stood, wobbly but upright, without help. He reached for a cane handed to him by the man near the DJ booth and slowly turned toward his wife. The world seemed to tilt. Emily clutched her chest, unable to speak, tears already streaming down her cheeks. "I don't understand," he smiled, eyes gleaming. 7 months, 2 cities, 3 different therapists. I didn't want you to know until today. But the doctors said, they said I'd probably never walk. But they didn't say I couldn't try." The DJ switched the music. A slow piano version of Ed Sheeran's Thinking Out Loud floated through the speakers. Noah took one careful step toward Emily, then another. Guests stood, clapping, cheering, some openly sobbing. But he only saw her, his bride, trembling, radiant, awestruck. "I wanted our first dance to be different," he whispered. Emily couldn't hold back anymore. She ran into his arms, carefully guiding his weight as they swayed. Imperfectly, shakily, but beautifully. The cane was forgotten. The wheelchair stood empty. It was as if time paused. For 2.5 minutes, the world didn't remember a war, or a wheelchair, or the rules of probability. It only remembered love. As they finished, thunderous applause erupted. The guests were on their feet, wiping tears, clapping louder than ever. Emily cupped his face. You planned this? All of this?" Noah nodded, breath shallow. "I wanted to give you one normal memory before we step back into the real world." Emily held him tightly. "This is better than normal. This is us." They kissed, slow and full of meaning, under the halo of twinkle lights and love. Just as they were about to sit again, the front door opened. It wasn't loud, but it was enough to cut through the music. Everyone turned. A tall woman entered, elegant but weathered by time. Her hair was a soft gold-streaked gray, her dress a deep burgundy. Her eyes locked instantly on Emily. The color drained from Emily's face. Noah looked from the woman to his bride. "Who is that?" Emily stepped back, her smile faltering. "No, it can't be." The woman approached slowly. "Emily!" Gasps echoed again, this time more confused than celebratory. Emily's voice was barely audible. Mom? Noah froze. That word hit like a thunderclap. Emily hadn't spoken of her mother in years. She'd always said she had no family left, only mentioned that her mother had left when she was 15 and never returned. The subject was closed, too painful to prod. But here she was, in flesh and breath and tears. I, I didn't know if I'd be welcome, the woman said, voice trembling. I needed to see you today. The room was silent. Emily took a shaky breath. How did you know? She held up an invitation. I saw your name in the paper. I begged your aunt to send me one. I know I don't deserve to be here, but when I saw you walking with him, I couldn't stay away. Emily's world felt like it was cracking open. Her childhood flashed back in pieces. Abandonment, confusion, loneliness. And now her mother stood in front of her like it had been a misunderstanding. Noah placed a hand. The room still held its breath. Emily stared at her mother, kneeling, weeping, trembling, and everything inside her screamed with chaos. Her mind was a storm of hurt, her heart bruised by the years of absence and the raw wound of this unexpected reunion. She didn't know whether to scream or sob. She turned to Noah again, the one person who had become her calm. He gently took her hand, then said something she didn't expect. I invited her. Emily froze. What? Noah's voice was low, steady. I found her, a few months ago. Emily blinked. Why would you do that? I told you everything. I told you she left. He nodded, his grip never tightening, never demanding. You also told me once that you wished she could have seen the woman you became. Tears spilled from her eyes. That was just a wish. I buried it years ago. Noah gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Sometimes buried wishes are still living ones. I thought maybe, just maybe, your heart deserved the chance to decide for itself. Not based on pain, but truth. Emily looked back at her mother. And what if the truth hurts more than the silence? Then at least you'll know, he said quietly. You'll know you chose to face it instead of letting it haunt you. Silence filled the room again. Even the DJ, unsure what to do, left the music off. Her mother rose slowly, wiping her tears, her voice quivering. I know I wasn't there. There's no excuse good enough. I was scared. Your father had just died, and I didn't know how to be alone with you. So I ran. You didn't even write, Emily said bitterly. I couldn't bear to see what I gave up, her mother whispered. Every year I watched from afar. I kept tabs. You got a scholarship. You started teaching. You found someone who looks at you like the stars live in your eyes. I missed everything, and that's on me. Emily's hands were shaking again. Her mother stepped forward, stopping just inches away. I didn't come to be forgiven. I came to tell you that you are everything I was too broken to raise, and I am so proud of you. Emily's breath caught. She wasn't ready to say I forgive you, not yet, but something inside her softened. Maybe it was Noah's courage. Maybe it was the dance. Maybe it was the idea that love sometimes begins again when it has no right to. I don't know what this means, she said. It doesn't have to mean anything today, her mother replied gently. I'll go if you want. I just needed you to know. Emily stood in silence. Then with trembling hands, she walked forward and offered her mother a slow, cautious hug. It wasn't warm. It wasn't healing. But it was the first touch they'd shared in over a decade. It was a beginning. Later that night, after the guests had left and the fairy lights dimmed, Noah and Emily sat under the oak tree outside the venue. His cane rested beside him. His legs were tired, sore from the effort of standing and dancing. But his heart was full. Emily leaned her head on his shoulder. You really pulled everything off, didn't you? I had a lot of help. Your Aunt Marla gave me your mother's last address. The therapist taught me how to walk short distances again. I just wanted to give you something unexpected. She smiled faintly. You gave me a new version of love. Noah tilted his head. What do you mean? You didn't just marry me today. You healed something I didn't even realize was still broken. You risked your secret for me. You risked my anger. All for a memory. He turned to her, eyes glassy with emotion. You deserved a memory worth the pain. They sat in silence, stars blinking softly above them. Then Emily reached into her bouquet and pulled out a small folded note. What's that? Noah asked. I wrote vows I didn't read earlier, she admitted. I was scared they were too vulnerable. But now, I think I want you to hear them. She unfolded the note, voice steady despite the lump in her throat. Noah, I used to think love was about finding someone who would carry your burdens. But then I met you, and you showed me that love is about someone who teaches you how to carry your own. You've never asked me to fix you. You've never tried to fix me. You just stood by, patient, present, and real, showing me that strength isn't how you walk, it's how you stay. Today I marry the man who gave me back my courage, my softness, and now, my family. Noah's lips parted, but no words came out, just tears. He took her hands and pressed them to his lips. That's the best vow I've ever heard. They didn't need more music. Noah slowly stood one last time, pulling her gently to him. Under the oak tree, they danced again. Slow, imperfect, breathtaking. No phones, no audience, just them, just love. In the shadows behind the glass doors, Emily's mother watched from a distance. She didn't go back inside. She simply smiled and walked away into the night, carrying a sliver of peace she hadn't felt in years. Maybe one day she'd return. Maybe she wouldn't. But for tonight, something powerful had begun. Because sometimes the biggest surprises at weddings aren't who shows up, but how love shows up, unshakable, fearless, and ready to rewrite everything. As the night faded and the last guest departed, Emily and Noah stood hand in hand, knowing their journey was just beginning. They had faced pain, uncertainty, and secrets, but love had been their true foundation, stronger than any challenge. In each other, they found not just a partner, but a promise, that no matter what life brought, they would face it together, with courage, grace, and an unbreakable bond. And sometimes the most unexpected moments, the surprises that shake us, are the ones that reveal the deepest truths about love.